New recorders with the background and all. Noisy comings and goings. Sounds of South Bronx. More so like Melrose, Morrisania area. Just taking a break from working on some technical aspects of some endeavors. I own and operate a company that makes digital products and fosters digital solutions, mainly like using like the web and apps, websites, and things of that nature, connected platforms. So I was working on some things and just now pausing. A rabbit hole somehow, some way. The motorcycle, you hear the motorcycles every day, all day, or the cars, like rigged up with the racing engines. It mainly take like the BMWs. You also, see some Audis, some Benzes, smaller Mercedes. They'll take the, the Accords, the Hondas, some other cars and just rig them up with racing engines and just really be making a lot of noise in the street, if you ask me, because I don't really see the purpose of driving around the city like New York, crowded and dense, and a lot of stops and red lights, and really not long stretches of driving the freeway when it's not jammed up. But so they just 6 in the morning you'll hear it. Late at night, they don't care to just rev up the engines. They don't care if a baby's sleeping. There's no elderly person with, or a person in general with like cardiac conditions, or just basically just not really observing like the peace. Now, with a lot of people in New York, you're gonna have noise, but like to just be purposefully making noise and knowing that you're really in excess with the noise and stuff like that, and just not a pleasant noise either. It's not like, oh, listen to that racing engine. Sometimes it's cool to hear. You at the racetrack and whatnot, it's exciting and all that. Nice powerful engine and all that good stuff. But in the neighborhood streets, So lately I've just been going back and forth to Connecticut. New York is where I live, in the Bronx, like I just said earlier. Go back and forth to Bridgeport, Connecticut. Spend a few days up there, come back down here. I like riding the train up there because the trees and the leaves look really nice. In the summertime, it's like real lush and green, and just the sun hits it. It's just like a rich visual. It's real nice. In the fall, it's just like, nice treat to the leaves changing colors. Some areas are more pronounced than others, but it's a nice sight. Kick back on the train, just think, can't go anywhere. You're on the train car, you're not in control, you don't have to concentrate on the road. Just there, you can just like let your thoughts wander. You can like devote your thinking to something, get something figured out. Get some work done if you like, pop open your laptop or whatever, but like I said, for me, I like to just kick back, look out the window. If it's nighttime or I can't see out the window, I just put my headphones on, listen to some music, or listen to an audio book, or browse the web somehow, some way. Do something. Or just do nothing. Just sit in the seat and just zone out. It's always a good thing. Well, yeah, I can say it's always a good thing, but you know, that situation is straight. That you have reason to be attentive. Like, you know, you have to pay attention to stop. You know, stop might be coming up. Pay attention. You miss it. You're going for a ride and you have to get off and you get another ticket to go back. Snap. Okay. Happened to me once or twice in Jersey Transit. Supposed to get off at Edison. Fell asleep, missed it. Had to get off in New Brunswick. Luckily, my homie was out there. He came and scooped me up from the New Brunswick train, and I hung with him with his job for a little bit till he got off and dipped. Adventurous. The path, the world lines. You just don't know. Like every subsequent step is somehow, some way influenced by the step we're currently taking. I used to think about like how a fly could zip through the air and the vibrations and the motion of him or her zipping through the air. That air vibrates a certain way and eventually reaches to me sleeping or something, or waking up or whatever. And it can it has some effect on what I did, like what movement, like maybe even something I couldn't even recognize, like my skin did something like whatever, small little 1/1000th of my skin twitched or something. I consciously didn't notice it, but my subconscious noticed it, my body noticed it, and did something. It's just chain reaction that continues on to this very second. I just think about that often, like anything, like vibrate the air, it vibrates the next air, the next air, the next air, the next air, till it gets to you, or till it gets to something, and eventually it does something that leads its world line path across yours, or indirectly somehow, some way. And it's just all connected, even beyond. That's why I'm not gonna say like I'm big on astrology, but I don't discount astrology. I don't abide by it like, faithfully. I do to a degree, but it's not like something I just put forth as just absolute fact. Like, yo, you can't deny this. It's just something that's for me. It's for others too, because they, but it's just something that's for me. So, but nonetheless, the stars, everything is physics. Everything is physical. So, the star dips through space, ripples space, and 100 million years, it eventually ripples and reaches the earth and down to me in some fraction of that. And it's like, it influences me in some way. It's not like, people tend to look at it, when those who just discount it as just utter, they be they look at it like in a magic sense, like, oh, that's that magic stuff, it's like some but it's not like that. It's just all about physics. Everything just boils down to the physics. Like, what's the physics of it? There's no metaphysics. You know, I make these assertions and I don't have a doctorate in physics or anything like that, but you know, I read up on it. It's an interest of mine and whatnot. But if you think about it, like, there's no metaphysics. Like, maybe I'm making an assertion out of naivete towards the word metaphysics, or the concept of it, of what it is. But basically, to manipulate physics, you would be physics. You know, it would imply, you know, and if it goes beyond the rule we currently have, I feel like my logic tells me that it would just be an extension of our physics, you know. So that's just something that goes on in my mind. Probably should be getting back to my work. Sometimes I find myself like slacking, you know. I'm a pretty ambitious fellow, and I have some quite high ambitions as far as like making these companies and expanding the ones that are pretty much established. You know, there are two that have reached the growth stage, like they're beyond the startup stage. It's like, okay, so, but then there's the transcendent side of me that, you know, just recognize it's like, yo, this is really nothing that matters. Any way that I can imagine it to really matter in the grand scheme of things. But, you know, then sometimes I'm like, well, maybe I'm not charged with worrying about the grand scheme of things. I'm placed here for some reason, or I came here, or I came out of, I don't know, getting off into how I got here and establishing a premise for that to go on. I don't want to get into it, but let's just say for this thought path, I was put here. I was, you know, caused to be. All right. Whether it's by like some direct loving deity or whatever, or by design of some higher power or higher intelligence or whatever. I'm placed here with these things to deal with. So it's like I have to deal with them, but also be conscious of the fact, because you can draw power from the conscious of the fact that there is much, much more. And this is the extremely gross understatement to say there is much, much more to this universe and whatever else is beyond this universe. So by being conscious of that fact, you can deal with this reality that you are immediately faced with. Much better, you know, than if you have no understanding that there's much, 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 much to the Google exponent more than what the human being experiences. But the way things are, the way society is set up, and the way the world is ordered right now, is like you have to if you really want to have a level of comfort, you have to have some type of way to really make sure that you're, have, basically bottom line what I'm saying is have money. You have to have money, and like the more you have, the better. Now what you do with it, that's a question of morality right there. But the bottom line is to be comfortable, to enjoy a great level of mobility and ability, and even power, even muscle. It's best to have money, and a lot of it. So you walk a fine line between knowing that and kind of playing into that. You just have to have a way of like keeping yourself grounded, just coming to terms with the ultimate reality of what the hell. This is just something that's just like, think about Neptune. How many times a day do you think about what's going on Neptune? How many times a year do you think about what's going on Neptune? Even a decade. How many times do you think about the matters of Neptune? You feel me? And that's something that's in our solar system. So imagine, what do we matter to something light years away? I'm not even talking about an intelligent being. I'm talking about a comet zipping through space. What do we matter to it? What does it matter whether I have a job or whether I have a car and such? And, money in my pocket to do whatever I want to do at any given time. What does it matter if I'm sick in the hospital? If I'm facing 20 years to life in jail, in prison? What does it matter to a comet, to some weird, small, microscopic blob of life on some planet 10 trillion light years away? or some form of a planet, something that something can dwell on. We always think of something that have to be a solar system, like a star system that's pulling planets in orbit. That's where we always look for life. That's where humans always center their focus of looking for life. But the paradigm for life, of what constitutes life, it just needs to be, taken into consideration that it should be pliable. There could be something that lives so fast we don't even see it, or we can't detect it, yet it lives a full life. There could be something that lives so long and moves so slow that we can't detect it, and yet it lives a full life. Maybe we're inside of it, So, just don't know. I take that approach with a lot of things, a lot of situations. Don't think about it with the conventional framework of, here are the conditions where this can be. I call that object-oriented thinking. Here you are. You have these conditions, these objects, that whatever the condition is, the conditions have to be one of these objects in order for, or the precondition, rather, I should say, has to be one of these objects, and there's an array of objects. And if it's not one of them, then this condition can't be. I don't think like that with anything, really, not much. Not anything that like nature hasn't set upon it to be the logic. And the solutions that I come up with, or come to me, I should say, that the solutions that come to me with that type of thinking in most situations, they're amazing, they're remarkable. Sometimes they're too outrageous. Sometimes they're just like, no, you can't do that. Or, sometimes they're just not practical, really. But, they're like theoretical, but most are practical. And most are put to use. So we go through this life with like just this, but always this set of this is how it's done. Like, yo, people do this. This is how it's done. This is, it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. Like who said, that's just like how it came to be. That's how it's usually done. That's how most people do it. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that like this is the only way. Because the action is not the goal. A lot of people say, oh, the journey is the destination. I mean, there's cases where that can be, but no, the goal is the destination. The point is the destination. So if it's like the philosopher Alan Watts said, there are people who they'd rather have the money as opposed to the true wealth, So it's like, it's a sense kind of like related to that, but it's more so like skipping problems per se. Like Daniel Burris, he's a business thought leader, and he talks about things, and he talks about this concept of problem skipping. Like, okay, well, yeah, that's preventing you from reaching your goal, but there are other routes to your goal, so it's like problem skip. Like, the goal is not to like have a job or, have a career. The goal is to make money, to do things that, for the average person, whether they know it or not, to do the things that they already enjoy and make money by doing those things, or gain resources and become rich in, not just like money rich, but just, who knows, maybe it gets him or her access to such and such position where she can prosper there, or, whatever. But that's the goal, to be able to be mobile in society, in the world, the physical world, to be able to go to Spain or Montreal, Singapore, or Detroit, So, and in order to do that, you gotta have money, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, well, no, I'm not really a working type of guy, as far as working in the sense of going to a job, having a job that I go there and do the same thing every single day. Whether the duties change or this or that, more or less my role is pretty much the same. Now, if you're like something like a nurse or a police officer or ambulance or firefighter or some other type of service to society, then that's different and that's noble, And it's good that you get paid, and you should. You should get paid well. But I'm talking about, things that are not contributions to society. I'm talking about that, like, you can use your imagination of what those are. So I'm not that type. Like, I just, I just have, my mind is just it's just too much attracted to too many different things. My energy bubbles too much, and I have ideas and they match with this energy, and they are they're put forth, they're vomited out. You know what I'm saying? They're vomited out. They can't stay in. So I need my time. My time is valuable. So I just have to set myself where I'm compensated well for my time or my efforts, so that I do not need to sell my time to, like I said, I should back up. It's more so I always try to make it so that I'm compensated for my efforts, and my efforts are valuable, and they, produce money, and they cost money. So I don't have to sell my time to some company or some job, in order to sustain myself. So I see that. I don't even know how I got there. So to me, that's a signal that that's the end of the rabbit hole. When I get somewhere where I don't even know how I got there from the last step, it's time to climb out of the rabbit hole and go back. So thanks for vibing with me, whoever you might be. You can do some more rabbit holing. It's easy, it's calming, it's relaxing. So until the next time that you vibe with me, whoever you might be, bless.